This is The Last of Us Part 1. It was released in 2022 by Naughty Dogs. It is a remake of the original game. In this video, we will look into how they changed the environments from the original game, learn some advanced techniques, look into some custom tools, see how they blended materials, and understand how they made the game look so good. So here we have the different passes in one shot, which is amazing. So we have the wireframe on the left and right. Then we have the base color, albedo. Then we have a packed texture that they're using, which is BRDF should stand for base color, roughness, displacement. F, I'm not 100% sure, could be fuzz. It could be other things, so I'm not 100% sure. But as you can see, it's a combination of many things. Then the roughness alone, which has a lot of details in itself. The wood, the concrete, everything has some detail. And this is the mark of high quality. Many young artists kind of overlook the roughness, or just when it's like super obvious, the roughness needs detail. And you can see it here. It's not bland, it's not an afterthought. It is worked on with care and attention to details. So next up, I really like to see the wireframe, and we're gonna analyze a little bit. So divided the mesh to provide good topology that will allow to vertex paint color to blend the multi-layered shaders smoothly with no sudden abrupt transitions or stretched blends between vertices that are too spaced apart. So this is really like how it goes. So in school you learn to optimize, you learn to do the most with the least amount of vertices and all these things. But in reality, it really all depends on the art direction, on the budget, and on what we're going for. So at Naughty Dog, I mean, they're known for super high quality environments, characters, everything, right? So the assets are very high quality. And this is one method that you achieve it. So see, when you don't really need it, like here, I mean, this is not a flat surface, which is the case in other games, right? Where they put an already blended material or they add decals, which then again, it becomes a matter of doing the math. And are decals more expensive? In most cases, yes, they are. But then how complex your shader can be so that it doesn't come to the same cost. It's all a matter of, well, establishing the guidelines. So here we can evaluate where they put the most density, the highest density of edges, so that we can see where it was the most important. And you can see here is also important. Of course, those are smaller props, hero props-ish, right? Because, I mean, this is a complex prop. But on the column here, you have way more than here. And the doors also, you have, I mean, this is pretty constant. But the panels behind those wood herringbone patterns, they are way less. The density is way less than here and here. So when we go back to this one, you can see that, well, this is the foreground, right? You see it very clearly, and even probably they had established that in the shot, in the environment, that would be featured, would not be blocked, right? This has a standard pattern, right? Which has a little bit of moss that is painted over, that is blended, but just slightly. So they didn't need a lot of geometry, of vertex density. But here and there they did need, and some of the wood panels, because of the light, and here also they wanted to add some leaks and some like more details. So they knew in advance. So it's all about planning and preparation. They knew what they were going for. They knew where it counted the most, right? Such as here, such as the foreground here. So this is how they establish their strategy. And this is how you make the most. Like you put your budget where it's needed, right? Those parts, and then like the ceiling is not. I mean, it is lit. We can see it. We can see it clearly, but it's not as important. Also, because the eye is drawn. Also, I mean, this is a level which is flooded. So you know, there's the water. There's the effect that is so cool. So the player would look at the character, and then you know, these places which are lit and you see the angle of the light, it does not showcase the ceiling. Obviously, it's very rare that it does, but it really shows like this part mainly because this is a point of interest. It's like, hey, look at that. Next up in the same environment, so we have this peeling plaster shader, did a lot of heavy lifting throughout the game too. He built the texture using a mix of Megascans, Photoshop, and Substance Designer before creating a robust shader that could be tinted and used baked AO for further weathering. So let's take a look at it right here, isolated. It's an amazing shader, and anyone who has played with Substance Designer has tried to do paint peeling paint, and it's really not easy to achieve such a realistic look. So here's a look at one layer within the shader. It's very high frequency because the shader only blends this in at the edge of the paint where it peels. Began with Megascan source and mixed clone and added to it using other methods to arrive here. So definitely this is not just a drag and drop from Megascans and just call it a day, right? Which is, well, we're all guilty of this when we get started. And well, in the age of free Megascans, I would have to add, either you're too old or too young in your career. I started my career before. I went through the Megascans revolution, and now I mean, it's still around, of course, but there are a lot of discussions around sameness in Unreal Engine. People using Megascan, I mean, artists and studios, and a lot of games tend to look similar-ish. It's really not that they just use Megascans without modifying it. Like everybody, of course, retouches, make it their own. But if everybody relies on Megascans, well, that's what happens, right? So Megascans is an amazing base and onto which you have to build and make it your own. So let's take a look at this texture in the environment. It is so amazing. It looks so good. Here we are in the Firefly lab. This is the first post from the same artist, the principal artist. So this is a screenshot from the game. So we also try to add some environment storytelling throughout the space, giving previously empty rooms more clearly defined purpose and creating more unique props to fit the narrative. So this is a big deal for environment artists. And here we are. We have to be so grateful and we're so lucky to have access to that. So we have a shot of the environment with the wireframe. So we wanted to try and show a few more wireframe shots of the environment to show that our poly counts remain fairly conservative for assets. We tend to rely more on texture and shader work to convey detail, which is why topology is spread more evenly. So you see, it's reasonable, but it's like in the context of a super highly detailed, high quality environment work, right? Because we could compare with many others and the density would not be the same everywhere, right? So this is quite, I wouldn't say quite high. He's saying that this is still conservative. This is 2022. So then again, as I say frequently, the engines can handle more geometry. So this is why blending with vertex painting is, I would say, a bit more accessible. It's not accessible in all cases, but this is very interesting. And then you can appreciate all the details, all the leaks on the walls, and you can appreciate the roughness details also on the floor. You can see what the density is. And when you don't really need it, well, you have way lower density, because that should be probably a metallic surface here with a little bit of rust, and that's it. No need for more details. But when they do need, they have the option. So we have a few more to go through, still in the Firefly lab. So we like to use color to help player navigate through spaces. So, this is level design, this is environment art. When we say that everybody works together, it's really a team effort. It's really the case. It's not just level designers doing their thing, then the environment artists, then lighting artists. It's everybody working and pushing in the same direction. So particularly repetitive and intense combat areas. For these functional rooms, I love having these colored laminate floors, great for material response and bounce light. That is true. This is adding so much. Instead of a flat surface that kind of absorbs light, this reflects in a way that, and this is what I mean by roughness details. It's not just like bland. It's not just one value, right? It's a lot of values. It's using probably grunge maps. There are many ways, or painting, just to make the roughness map interesting. And it's really where it counts, right? On concrete floors, it is very common and very appreciated to spend more time and add some extra details. And here you can appreciate also, that's very interesting. There's kind of a path which is following, which I don't remember this environment so much. Is there like a trail or something? It looks like, okay, it's probably decals for adding both puddles and like kind of dirt, dust, and maybe footsteps or something like that. So maybe that's the case. But other than that, you see all the details, everything here. You can really appreciate the details. There is so much to learn from these screenshots alone. This is worth so many tutorials. I mean, some tutorials are great, some online courses are great, but just studying work from the greatest artists and studios, this is worth a whole tuition in some colleges, right? So pay attention to these things and you will learn a whole lot, and apply it, of course. This one is great also. So I try to treat all areas like mini vignettes, imagining the player hiding here for a while, having the time to take in the details, the cracked concrete, individually modeled leaves, slightly crumbling of the edge the window rests on. So this is, I mean, super highly detailed environment. And here we have something amazing. So the left part, of course, is the base color. Middle part is the wires, but there's more to it. Wireframes and the roughness on the right. So our in-game wireframe view isn't so pretty as we might be used to, but edge thickness also denotes polygon density, and so it can be useful debug. So we have a lot more screenshots and videos showing their wireframe. Actually, the problem with their wireframe is it's barely visible in some cases, right? It's so like light. You basically you can tell in some cases, but if the albedo is too strong, too dark, you basically see nothing. So that's, I believe, that's my opinion though, from what I've seen. So that looks to be kind of a problem, but then you see from the edges, you see the polygon density, right? So when it's bigger, it has a little less density. When it's smaller, like the leaves or the grates here, you see that it has, or here, and it's needed because you have destruction, right? So you have way more polygons than thus edges and vertices. On the ground here, you can see some useful large alpha cards where in supporting the leaf models and blends. So those are the large alpha cards, which helps, because we can't have everything modeled, because you see tons of small ones. So those are the modeled leaves, which were mentioned a little bit previously, in the individually modeled leaves. So of course that adds tons of details, and it pops with the lighting, so you can see, you can tell that wow, it looks real because, well, it's almost real, right? But then, of course, underneath you have large alpha cards because you can't have that many. There's a limit, right? But this is so informative. This is so good. And if you're working on an environment with destruction, you can, and with lots of debris and stuff like that, you can take this technique and apply it for your portfolio. If you are interested in learning how to apply those techniques that we're covering while analyzing those games, I have created a class in which I show everything step by step. I show all the techniques, all the tricks. There are no time lapse, nothing is done off screen. And I take the time to explain what we do and why we do it. I show the best practices, and we're covering a small environment from A to Z. We are showing every single step of how it's done on a professional production. So if you are interested, check it out. There's the link in the description, and there's a discount available with the code provided. Next up, we have a second post for the same environment, the Firefly Lab. And this one is focused on the tarps. So let's see how this was done. So first started by building a small example area. It included a complex scaffolding frame and the tent material elements. Completed the shader work and used block mesh versions of certain roles, knowing that we would eventually bake those. So we can look a little bit closer. So this is all, it's quite low poly for the level of details that we're getting. And on the floor also, if you remember that area. So it's, let's call it tent material. It's tarp, like so much more density here because it needed to bend correctly to make it believable. Whereas the larger surfaces have way more, of course, but they're still quite, it's kind of an organic shape. I know the term is not the correct one, but it's really, really flowing very well. And here you can see there is actually quite a bit of geometry here. So this is very interesting. So this is the artist saying he wrote a detailed breakdown of how the example area was made, as well as how best to model and bake the high poly roll meshes. We then sent all breakdowns and supporting files to our amazing outsource vendors who completed the bake workflow. Because even with tons of artists on the payroll for the studio, outsource is necessary in those AAA large environment games. For so many departments, outsource is important. And when you have outsource, you still have to have consistency. And you don't want the principal artists and the seniors to be just constantly, and the leads, constantly spending time saying, no, this is not done properly. Please do it this way. You have to change this. You have to change that. Like there is some back and forth, but the only way that you eliminate some of the problems is with very in-depth documentation. So breakdown, supporting files, example, like this is what they're using, right? So they had an example file probably that they sent to their outsource team. And it's like, this is how it should be done. Thank you very much. And it looks really, really good. So even in combat heavy zones, detailing is so important to sell the narrative. We spent a lot of time on the signage and propping for the lab hospital areas to ensure that even though it was abandoned for a long time, the original purpose was still clear. So that's a great note, right? So yes, it is post-apocalyptic. There are some kind of weird zombies there. Yes, this is what the game is about, but it has to be grounded in reality of this was a hospital. This was a functional hospital. This is how you can bring the environment art to another level. Even in sci-fi or fantasy, it is when it's grounded in something that everybody can relate to it. Like most everybody has been in a hospital, even if you're in Europe, in Asia, in America, North America. Of course, there are some differences, but they have also some things that are common. And a functional hospital will have some things which the team gathered references for and implemented and used in the game. So this is how it's done, right? It looks overrun, it looks like it has seen better days, but it was a hospital. It had all the stuff that you would expect to find in a hospital. Even if it does not work anymore, it's not functional, it used to be. So this is storytelling through environment. This is, it doesn't need, you don't need to have a trail of blood, which is like the most cliche and obvious one from students in on portfolios, right? There's nothing wrong with using blood, but I've been told that 13 years ago, don't do that. Like everybody's doing it. So that's 13 years into the future. I'm saying that too, right? Try as a student, as a young environment artist, try not to use those things. Try to be either more subtle or more interesting. Like this is great storytelling. And people looking for artists to join your team, they will pick it up and they will be very interested to figure out, oh, okay, we need to interview that artist because this is interesting. This is what we want on our team. Still from the same artist, Matthew Trevelyan Johns, we have a complex ice and snow shader. So we're going to look into those. They are really highly detailed and there's many layers. So we're going to take a look at the screenshots. So during development, often jumped in to help out on more complex looks, areas, or shader effects. In the deer hunt section, I took on this large area of ice as it presented a great opportunity for some special shader effects to really push the PS5. First layer, the cracked asphalt layer, blended via height map to show only what is needed. Here we have the small stones and pebbles layer to add macro detail and break up the larger tile that comes next. So here's what comes next, the asphalt fill. This layer fills in the gaps. All three are tiled differently in the shader, allowing to cover large areas without repetition, which is fantastic. Next, we have the initial snow layer, masked by texture plus vertex painting. The ice layer. This softens the transition between snow and asphalt and provides a nice specular element to the look, and it makes it very realistic because this is how it pretty much occurs in real life. And we see controls within the shader allows the artist to alter the snow and ice coverage using the height map as a blending method. Snow lumps added. The final layer, including height map based, screen space shadows to add depth to the effect and break up the edge transition further. And we can see playing with different layers. So this is a very complex shader, and you understand how they pay attention to small details. Like there are many layers, and this is how it looks so good. So here's another example. It was also tasked with creating some library snow shaders and general looks. This example shows the direction for how foliage might grow in thick snowy areas. He particularly liked the frosted tips to the grass and the ice effect where soil meets snow, which is very, like this is highly detailed stuff. Okay, so let's look into this shader. First layer, soil and rock. This blends on top of the snow using a mixture of height map and grunge map inputs. Then melting snow and ice. This creeps in at the border of the snow-dirt blend. Alter the diffuse, flatten normals, increase specular, and decrease roughness to achieve the look. soil and rock height map shadows. Using the height map of the stones, it generates the screen space height map shadow effect. Leaves and debris. He uses randomization feature that will automatically vary the spread of the leaves as they are painted onto the mesh using vertex colors. Snow lumps, just like in the previous material, use the snow lumps height map to drive a parallax occlusion feature as well as a screen space shadow effect to soften the lumps. Here it's just adjusting the screen space shadow effect to decrease the appearance of the lump effect to make it more obvious or less. So this is a highly advanced shader, probably pretty costly, but that was important in this part of the environment where, again, a studio such as Naughty Dog is always pushing for super high fidelity graphics, like super detailed environments. So this is a masterclass in shader work. Now we will look into the work of Julian Elwood, who worked on a Houdini plugin to help with the destructed walls. So in such a game, I guess that was a no-brainer, basically, that was absolutely needed. So let's read what he has to say. Found some time to integrate a little Houdini into my pipeline for this project. Throughout Outskirts, there are many destroyed brick buildings, and I decided to use Houdini to construct rapid booleans and auto placement of bricks along destroyed wall sections. This allowed for rapid iteration of complex destruction areas, all in Maya's interface through a Houdini plugin. So this is really fantastic. We'll take a closer look upon that. So, I mean, anybody who either played the game or just watched a few seconds trailer, you have seen a lot of destruction because that's absolutely part of the environment. And everything looks very good, of high quality, but these things can be time consuming. So developing and using tools is the key here. So we have 3 short videos that we're gonna jump into. First of all, that's really cool. We have the name of the tool. So he named his tool the Brick Wall Destroyer 3000. So procedural insert brick scale and placement, primary, secondary, and tertiary detailed booleans, grout booleans, erosion depth. So here we are in Houdini with the tool itself. So you can see the shape will be the boolean. And then this is an example of a rough layout. And then there is a lot of customization, which help tremendously to speed the process. So second video, we can see even more options for customization. You can see he's playing with the brick structure, with high res, random rotation, random scale, HD edge wear, insert brick depth. So in this video, we can see even more details, how we can play with booleans, how we can use a different location for the booleans, and all the controls. So this is part of working in a large studio. There are tools who are made available for everyone. In some cases, it's artists coming up with suggestions. In some other cases, it's implemented very early in the pipeline. But to achieve such a level of quality and the quantity of those assets, the quantity of walls which are broken up, that would be unrealistic to model and place all of that manually. So tools are developed that you don't really learn about that in school or on your own, but you know, Houdini is available. So it might be a good idea to look into Houdini and learn the basics. So we have more modular building kits to show, others from Nestor Carpintero. So let's look into the Halyard building tile set. So you can see here, even parts of the roof tiles were done individually and with other dimensions also. So we have the kit, then we have, well, I really like to see this, the kit with wireframes. I mean, just the wireframes here. Then the wireframes with the material in probably, this is probably in Maya. And then we have the complete version. Sorry, we don't have the same angle. The same angle is right here, correct? With the entrance here, which of course has tons of props, foliage, and all the nice stuff. But this is just so nice to see. The wireframe alone, the wireframe with the materials, and then the complete version in all its glory. This is so good. And then we can see the other angles, which you can appreciate the work. And for those who are new to modular building kits, it does look like simple-ish, right? Or repetitive. But even here, they already blend some materials. I saw some in another video. They use decals also, but I don't think it's the case here. Here there might be decals used as leaks. So in some cases, we use decals on the meshes themselves, or alternatively in the engine. But when it is worked properly, it does not look like the brick material doesn't look that repetitive and boring, right? It looks, well, with all the blending and all, of course, the propping and the foliage paths, everything that goes on, it looks just like the real thing. Right? The real world, when a building has been there for a while, it might have used the same bricks, but it doesn't look absolutely uniform like that. So this is a great example of an exterior of a building, which has not that many different assets, right? If we look here, it doesn't have that much parts. Probably it's reusing some other parts, or like definitely there is more than just these. For the walls, for the roof parts, there's a little bit more, but not that many. So this is a great example, and we have other examples here. The camp office lobby tile set. So we can see all the little parts, all the little trims, the panels, the doors, then the roof parts in their clean version. Here is another very good view with the wireframe, with absence of lighting, if you will. This is definitely in Maya, so it's a completely default lighting so that we can see everything. Then we see without the material, so you have to appreciate that those buildings here are not just a flat texture, they're actually modeled. So that is really cool detail. So let's look into this lobby. So we see those buildings modeled, and it's quite dark, obviously, because it's at night in these screenshots, with just lit by, trash fire, garbage bin fire. But you can appreciate the work. You can see everything assembled. I mean, you gotta pay attention. The lighting is very interesting here, very particular, but this is adding a very cool effect. The camp office during the day. So you can see how busy it is, right? Tons of props, but underneath there's a simple tile set which is shared, it's shared with these. So you got the tile set for the furniture, but you got the doors, the little columns, the frames, all those panels, then the ceiling panels also. And we can go back and you can see the ceiling panels right here. So it is shared throughout a very large environment that, of course, now we have way more light, so we can see. And we have also a bathroom right here. We have the corridor, have office space, little kitchenette for the employees, and we can see all those parts and the furniture. So everything has to be streamlined using a modular building kit. So this way, they can lay out the basic levels, and then they can work their magic, add some, material blending, and with the lighting, with the VFX, with the post-process, with everything, it becomes, well, the glorious game that we all know and love. Okay, here we're going to look into material blending with Jonathan Benainos, and this is from the museum interior. So we can appreciate, I love those shots. They're really, really amazing. So we can see this is gonna be the wallpaper with peeling parts, which are different geometry than the flat ones, of course. Here is the final result in game once the blending work has been done. Note that the peeling wallpaper stripes have been created by Gabriel Cervantes using Marvelous Designer. So those separate parts are done by another artist, and you can tell, right? There's like honestly a lot of work that goes into it. So the main material artist here is doing the blending on everything, and these intricate, time-consuming parts are done by someone else. Here you can see another shot. Very, very interesting environment. And the effect of the peeling wallpaper is really, really amazing. See, you have additional stuff. You have a lot going on the ceiling. Also, it's heavily destroyed and weathered. There's a lot going on. And here we have a little gallery for mainly the wood materials, wood planks, tileable, and then the wallpapers, which we are going to look into how they were used in the environment, how everything was blended together. So here what's going on is the wallpaper panels are evenly divided, and they are similar, right? They're all the same panels basically. But the ones selected here will be replaced by the custom ones done in Marvelous Designer. So we can see the artist is actually painting over those to bring the wall material, right? The plaster, like the damaged plaster. So it's gonna paint over and fill those parts, and he's gonna make it blend appropriately. Then he's adding other grunge type for the concrete. Now selecting those, he will select those and bring in the other panels, the other wallpaper panels assets. So we can see some moss, some heavy weathering, and then boom, the other pieces. Let's just bring that back, roll that back slightly. You see, those assets are brought in. I believe they were the materials were blended separately. They were probably hidden and then unhidden. And you see they have way more geometry, of course. And then the blending of everything together continues with 3, maybe even 4 materials, but 3 layers of material. And this is phenomenal work. Now we're going to look into the Capitol Nurses Hall materials with, again, the samples and in context in the environment. And we have a lot of interesting floor materials to look into. So additionally, broken tiles were modeled and textured using the same tile material rendered above. They were then placed accordingly to the texture mapped below and scattered here and there to add some depth and details to floors and hallways. I mean, this is a lot of depth and detail. This is really, really good. And here we can see two different angles of the same environment. And one of the main challenges in this room was to create these intricate marbled patterns on the floor. Just like in the Rotunda room, the floor is made out of mesh floaters mapped with different materials and layered on top of each other. Here we have a very interesting breakdown. In this breakdown, you can see the different materials used to make these floor patterns. The geometry is pretty simple, and having mesh floaters gave us the most efficient and flexible option without having to cut through the whole floor mesh. So you can see those parts outlined, and they are modeled so that they can be UV'd differently, right? Using trims, and thus making the work very, very easy, I would say. Maybe not easy, but easier for sure. Here is the reference board of the nurse's hall inside the state house that we used as main inspiration for the final result visible in the game on the left. To avoid any stretching, I made sure to have cohesive metrics between meshes and this stream texture. So this is the real work of environment artists. This is the deal. So you are creating amazing things, but they have to be rooted and grounded in real proportions, real metrics. This is how they get to be believable. So see, he established his own system so that this is what we're going to use, this is how much it's going to be worth, and this is how you manage and control the textile density also. So here we can see the artist at work blending, so using the floaters that he mentioned, and then blending, painting under it, and on the outskirts, where it's going to be the most heavily distributed. Then you can see there are some set of tiles that are selected together. And it's a lot of blending, a lot of different materials that work together. Probably that involves a bit of testing between 2 and 3 different materials. But this is how you achieve such results. So if you made it until the end of this video, note that there's going to be another episode. It's going to be a third one on The Last of Us Part 1. I wanted to keep my video around 45 minutes to not make them too long. And there's just so much to show and share. So we are blessed. We have to really make the most of this opportunity and learn and try to implement in our own pipeline, in our own workflow, gain those skills and improve as artists. So stay tuned for the next video.